Most writing advice is absolute garbage. Seriously, all that write every day at 5 a.m. and follow your passion nonsense, that is designed for people writing novels, not entrepreneurs like you who are trying to turn your expertise into an actual business asset that's going to last you for the next 5 to 10 years or more. I have watched way too many smart business owners waste months following advice that was never meant for them in the first place. I'm Holly. I help women entrepreneurs write books that actually work for their business. I've been in publishing for over a decade, and I've helped dozens of coaches and consultants turn their expertise into books that bring in speaking gigs and high-ticket clients and more. The thing is, most of what people tell you about writing a book is not true. It's totally wrong. So I'm going to share 5 tips that nobody else is talking about for writing your book. Things that actually work when you're writing as an entrepreneur, not as someone who has all day to stare at a blank page waiting for some muse to strike. So tip number 1, write your book description before you write your book. I know this sounds backwards, but if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. So your book description is basically your sales page. It tells people what transformation they're going to get and why they should care about that transformation. And when you write this first, you know exactly what promise you are making to your reader. And the promise that you make your reader is something that is super important. And that's because every chapter becomes about delivering on that promise. So when you do it this way, there is none of that wondering if you are staying on track or if chapter 7 actually belongs in this book that you're writing. You know exactly what you need to say to deliver your promise. In fact, one of my clients, I just talked to her this morning. She was telling me about where she is on her book right now. And the book that she was trying to write when she first hired me, it turns out that's not the book that she's going to end up writing. And that's because once she realized what her promise was to her reader, she realized she had to say something a little bit different in order to deliver that promise. Because a lot of times you come into writing a book and you think, oh, I'm going to write my book around XYZ. And so you just start writing about it. But then when you get to the end, you realize that it was not what you said it was going to be. That doesn't mean it's a bad book. It means that you need to go back and reassess your promise and make sure that you are delivering the right promise for the right audience at the right time. So when my client started, she thought she knew where she was going, but once she created the promise for her book for her reader, she realized that it was a slightly different direction. Not a complete 180, but slightly different. And that makes all the difference when you're trying to deliver a book that your readers actually want. So once she started writing that way, she never got lost in tangents or filler content, just trying to write something and get it on the page. Most people write 200 pages of a book and then they try to figure out how to describe it. But you need to do it the other way around. You need to create your promise first and then write the book. Tip number 2, you don't necessarily need to write your book in chapter order. A lot of us really think that the only way to write a book is to start with chapter 1 and keep going to the end. But that doesn't necessarily work for every brain. We all have different brains. We all think differently. And sometimes the way we think about transformations comes differently too. So start with the chapter that you are most excited about writing. That is the one where you have the strongest opinions or the best stories and you feel the most confident talking about it right now. And when you start there, when you write the chapter first that lights you up the most, your energy comes through right from the beginning on the page and it makes everything flow easier. Plus, you're building momentum instead of getting stuck on chapter 1 for 3 months. In fact, when you write the chapter that is exciting you the most first, going back and writing chapter 1 is typically much, much easier. I had one of my early clients who was stuck on her introduction for a while. She could not move forward in the book. And our container was moving along and I told her, you need to move on to the next chapter. You need to skip it and write the next chapter. And she hesitated for a little while because she really, really wanted to write chapter 1 first. But when she finally did take my advice and write whatever it was, maybe chapter 4 first, the one that she was really excited to teach, she wrote that in one afternoon. And then she was able to continue on with the book and finish the rest of the book in a matter of weeks. It went so much faster for her. So after, 3 or 4 weeks of getting nothing written because she was trying to write chapter 1, she was able to finish the entire book in just a couple more weeks, just from moving where she started from. And by the time she came back to write the introduction, she knew exactly what she was introducing because she'd already written it in the book. So your readers don't have to read the chapters in the order you write them. They don't know what order you write them in. So write them in the order that makes the most sense for your brain. Tip number 3, you need to map your chapters to your client's objections, not to your expertise. This is one of the places where a lot of people go wrong when they write their books. So authors will try to organize their content around what they know instead of what their readers need to hear. But your book isn't about showing off everything you know. It is about moving your reader from where they are right now to where they need to be and where you promise that you're taking them. So instead of thinking, what should I teach them? What you need to think instead is, what is going to stop my reader from buying my offer after they read my book? If your high ticket program or your membership or your mastermind or whatever you're selling is about, for example, scaling to multiple six figures, then what are the objections you hear on sales calls or in DMs or however you do your sales? Maybe it's, I don't have enough time. I don't know how to hire other people for my team, or I'm afraid of losing control of my IP. So those objections, that's where you need to center your chapter teaching around, because this is what people want to learn. And when someone finishes reading your book, they should feel like every reason they had for not working with you was already addressed. You should have already pre-sold them with your book. Tip number 4, a great way to write is to use voice memos when you're stuck. So I cannot tell you how many entrepreneurs I've worked with who can talk about their expertise for hours, but they totally freeze up when they sit down to write. So don't write, talk. Pull out your phone, pretend you're explaining this concept to your best favorite client, record yourself, and then use one of the endless AI tools that are around to transcribe it. And the words that come out when you're talking to a real person are the words that sound like you. They're the conversational words. They're clear and they solve real problems. And yes, you will need to edit those words, but they are your words and they are speaking to your reader in the way that your reader needs to be spoken to. In fact, I tell a lot of my clients to write their books while they're walking their dogs. Just have your phone up, chat, chat, chat. When you get back from a 30-minute walk, you've probably got an entire chapter written. It just needs to be transcribed and edited. Writing doesn't have to happen at your keyboard. Some of the best chapters I've seen started as voice memos or emails to yourself or phone calls to friends or conversations over Zoom with a client that just happened to be recorded and transcribed. And tip number 5, write backwards from your most expensive offer. This is the big one. So most people write their book first and then they try to figure out how to sell something from it after. They start with this topic they want to talk about, and then they write a book and then they're like, oh, I should sell something in my book. But that is completely backwards. You need to start with your highest ticket offer, the thing you want to sell. And if that is speaking or a keynote speech, then that is how you present it. The thing that makes you the most money and creates the biggest transformation for your clients is what you should be selling. You sell them the biggest thing in the book, and if that's not what they're ready for right now, you will have a downsell ready. And then from there, you work backwards. So what does someone need to believe before they're ready to invest in that offer? What do they need to know? What do they need to understand? What objections do they need to overcome? Your book becomes that bridge between where your reader is right now and where they need to be to say yes to working with you. There was a business coach I worked with whose signature program was 5 figures. I won't say the exact amount for our privacy, but it was 5 figures, and she wanted to sell people from that book. But how do you go from selling somebody a $20 paperback to a 5-figure mastermind program? Well, what we did was we structured her entire book around the mindset shifts and the strategic frameworks that her readers needed to be ready for that level of investment. And 6 months after her book launch, her sales calls completely changed. People were no longer asking basic questions anymore. They were no longer hemming and hawing over the price. They were asking about implementation timelines and payment plans and how can I make this work, instead of, oh, I don't think I can make this work. So that's what happens when your book does the pre-selling for you, because the trust is built in, the pre-selling is built in as long as you write it right. And none of this is about manipulating people or being sneaky or shady. I don't believe in that at all. It is about creating genuine value while being strategic about your business goals, because your book is an asset for your business. It is not just some random freebie ebook lead magnet that you toss up and hope people will download and read. It is a real asset, and it should bring you money in multiple different ways. And to get that, you need to make your readers happy. Your readers want transformation. You want to build a business that supports your life. So when you write strategically, everybody wins. The people who needed deeper support, they get a clear path to work with you beyond the book. The people who just need the book get exactly what they came for. And you get a business asset that works for years instead of just another file in your Google Drive or some PDF that people download and never look at. But here's what most people miss. Writing strategically doesn't mean writing salesy content. It means being intentional about what you include and how you structure it. The most natural, helpful books I've read were written with a clear back-end strategy. It is very subtle, but you never feel like you're being sold to because the author genuinely cared about solving your problem with the book. Strategy is in the foundation, not in the fluff. Now, if you are past the, I think I might want to write a book someday stage, and you're ready to talk strategy with that book, like what kind of book positions you for $20,000 speaking gigs or gets you invited into rooms you've only been watching from the outside, I've got something for you. There are 5 different profit paths. I call them strategy stacks that turn your book into a bridge between where you are now and where you want to be and where you want your business to be next. And the strategy you choose depends on your business goals, not just your expertise. So take my super quick quiz to find out which strategy stack matches not just where you've been, but where you're headed. And once you do, you will get my free, super easy 3-day implementation challenge where you can actually write the entire first chapter of your book in just a weekend, and you get a chance for free feedback from me. That's free book coaching from me. People pay hundreds of dollars for this, just for this feedback. You can get it for free with this implementation challenge. It is completely personalized to the strategy stack that is right for your business, and you can come out with your first chapter already drafted. Because if you're going to invest the time to write a book, it should be working towards the opportunities you actually want. Your expertise got you this far. Now let's make sure your book gets you to where you are going next. And be sure to watch this video next.